Blazor web app, server versus WebAssembly. How to choose a hosting model. When creating a Blazor web app, you are faced with the decision what interactive mode or hosting model should you use for your web app. You have four options: None, or SSR static server-side rendering, which are just static pages; Server, which renders server-side before pushing the final HTML to the client; WebAssembly, which downloads the page and its logic to the client so it can be rendered on the client's device; and Auto, which is a hybrid mixture between server and WebAssembly. We'll be looking at all four of these, what are their pros and cons, and what scenarios they are appropriate for. If you chose one of the interactive hosting models, you may choose whether you manually set which pages are interactive by setting their render mode attribute, or global if you want all your pages to be interactive. This is a powerful feature of Blazor and allows you to choose how much load you want to put on the client's device or how much load the server will have. When you have a mixture of static and interactive pages in your app, it's generally better to choose per page or component, so you only need to set the render mode on highly interactive pages. As the name implies, SSR, or static server-side pages, are used to display a static web page to the user. While it can still respond to anchor elements, other elements like buttons that generate events will not get a response from the server. This hosting model is typically used for information pages or blogs, etc. The pros? It has a fast initial load time and works well with traditional web apps. The cons? It has limited user interactivity and still requires a connection to the server. To create a SSR web app, select None for the interactive render mode. You notice there's no options to set interactivity per page or global. The template also does not include the familiar counter page because that involves a button with an event that updates the page. However, you can still generate data and use niceties like Entity Framework to retrieve the page's data. The server hosting model runs completely on the server. Pages are rendered on the server, then sent down to the client. This makes initial load time faster. Typically, a server web app is for internal use for medium to large enterprise systems. Because of the load on the server, it is used in an environment where the number of users is predetermined. The pros: it is lightweight on the client's device with small download. This, of course, makes the initial load time shorter. All logic is centralized for easier maintenance and security. It can update pages and data on pages in real time. The cons: it requires persistent connection to the server. The number of users it can support depends on the load the server can handle. This is why this kind of hosting model is used internally and is generally not for public-facing apps. To create a server web app, select Server as the interactive render mode and select Per Page or Component for interactive location, so individual pages can be placed into interactive mode. As you can see from the template, all the components are located in one server project. To enable interactivity for a page, add the render mode interactive server to a page. This way, the server can respond to user interactions like button click events. The WebAssembly model will download and render a page on the client's device. It allows for complex user interactivity for an undetermined amount of users. Typically, this is used for public-facing apps where any amount of public users are possible. Because of its high interactivity, it's also used in CAD or graphic design and for web games, etc. The pros: no need for a constant server connection. Highly interactive UI can support large amount of users. The cons: because it needs to download the app and its dependencies to the client, it has a slow initial load time. Its performance is determined by the abilities of the client's device. To create a WebAssembly web app, choose WebAssembly from the interactive render mode. Also select Per Page or Component for interactive location if you want to specify which pages should be interactive. The template now has two projects: a server project for server-rendered pages and a client project for pages and components that will be downloaded and generated by the client's device. Notice the counter page with its interactive button lies in the client project. It sets the counter page's render mode to interactive WebAssembly. The auto-hosting model is a hybrid between the server and WebAssembly models. It implements both server and WebAssembly technologies, but what is different is that Blazor, in the background, will choose which model gives the best performance at a given time. Generally, the auto model is used in large-scale applications that requires both real-time updates and offline capabilities. The pros, it's optimized for performance. It balances interactivity with load times. The cons, it's more complex to set up and optimize. This introduces additional maintenance and overhead. To create an auto-hosting web app, select Auto from the interactive mode and per page or component for the interactive location. Notice this template looks almost exactly like the WebAssembly template, but for the render mode on a page, set it to Interactive Auto. Like mentioned before, Blazor will choose which hosting model is more effective in rendering the page. The short and sweet is this. If you have a public-facing web app with an undetermined amount of users, or you have a high interactive UI, then choose WebAssembly. For large-scale apps that have a predetermined amount of users or clients, like a company's internal solutions, use a server app. It has faster load times and also provides real-time updates to your users. Thank you for watching our video. For more tutorials on C#, hit subscribe and click the reminder. Give us a like so the video can be visible to more people.